Hey guys, I'm Ryan from the Scottish Cycling Young People's Panel, and today I'm here with Cameron Mason. We've got,
How's it going?
yeah, good. How are you?
Yeah, doing all right, yeah.
We've got lots of questions to run through that you've submitted, so we'll get started. So first off, how's the collarbone?
Yeah, not too good in a sling at the moment. So yeah, I broke it 2 weeks ago in Merckxplas in Belgium, and I went straight into surgery, which was great. So they fitted a plate in right away, and then I've just been back home recovering basically. And yeah, it's been going good. Not too much pain. I've been on the bike indoors, obviously with the shoulder supported, and yeah, uh, it hasn't been too bad at all. Yeah, not too much pain. I'm kind of getting the movement back, so I'm heading back to Belgium next week to start training again after seeing the doctor, and then hopefully we'll be racing maybe around Christmas in a few weeks. So yeah, it's not been too bad to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, good. So you're not too out for too long.
No, and yeah, I mean, at the time, obviously, yeah, it sucks that that you're missing racing and you're missing training, but kind of in the grand scheme of things, it is 2020, so you kind of
Yeah,
expect these things.
yeah. If you're going to get injured, it's probably this year. It's the best year to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, is your training is that taken down a lot now, or are you more rehab and just turbo on the bike?
Yeah, like last week was pretty low intensity, barely any training. Basically, my body was recovering from the surgery. I definitely felt pretty rough every day. But as the days went on, my body kind of started to recover a bit better. So I have managed to be on the turbo most days, but not proper training at all. Still letting it recover and kind of using this opportunity to have a bit of a break really from it all. That's really why I came home, was to just kind of get away from all the racing, because in cyclocross it's quite intense. You're racing two times every week for a solid like 4 or 5 months. So to be actually get away from all of that is it's not a bad thing really. So I think once I go back to training and racing, I'll be quite refreshed, which is a little bonus, I guess.
Yeah, definitely reignite the fire a bit.
Yeah.
So, what would a usual week look like for you in the pre-season when you're training? How many hours would that be?
Well, yeah. So before the season, the hours are a lot higher. Obviously, when we're racing, like it's quite hard to keep the training hours up because you're either recovering from a race or getting ready for a race. But as yeah, in the off season, uh, it depends kind of what block we're in. Like if it's endurance, we could be doing like 25 hours plus. But if it's normal, I would say like 20 to 22 hours, which includes mainly road miles. But for me, I also enjoy getting on the mountain bike. So like once or twice being on the mountain bike, whether that's for like an endurance ride or for like specific stuff. So yeah, like we do like 3 days on and 1 day off. So it could be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday with hard training, and then a Thursday easy ride, and then all into the weekend. More intervals and sessions. But I found this summer, like with the lockdown, obviously it's meant no racing, but it's also meant like no distractions. So I think I managed to get the most consistent training I've ever got. So that was a little kind of silver lining, I guess, to the whole situation.
Yeah, definitely. So, is there much cross training in that? Do you do much running, or is it more gym stuff and then bike?
Yeah, like over the summer we tried to incorporate running in gym. Obviously, like I do find the gym does take away from the quality on the bike, so it's kind of quite hard. Yeah, so it's a hard one to balance, but that's just kind of what it is, I guess. And then definitely in the season we're running like once or twice a week just to kind of keep that going. It's mainly just kind of for injury prevention, so that our bodies are kind of used to the running, so that when we do it in a race we don't hurt something or get injured.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So during high school, sorry, were you training much then when you're in under 14s and junior and stuff?
Not compared to what I'm doing now if I look back, but at the time I guess it felt like a fair amount of training. Like during the week I'd be on my bike most days. In the winter it's obviously pretty grim because you walk home and it's just straight away dark, so it's hard to actually get out on the bike. But I'd be doing like some turbos and stuff and roller sessions, and then at the weekends club sessions or Scotch cycling sessions. So yeah, it wasn't really a very impressive amount of training. It was more the kind of what I was doing, which was more interesting, and how much I was enjoying it. Whereas I'd say now it's a lot more training, but there's maybe more that I don't enjoy quite as much, just because that's how it is. If you ride 20 hours a week, you're probably not going to enjoy some of the hours. But if you in school, like if you only ride 5-6 times a week, you should be kind of enjoying them, and it's a good escape from and all of that rubbish stuff at school.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely enjoying my training when I'm at school.
Yeah.
Have you got any advice for young aspiring athletes that are still at school, that are just super busy?
Yeah, it's that. I mean, it's hard to balance, and it's about kind of prioritizing things. So not getting caught up over missed sessions, because in the priority of things, like at that moment, the priority is probably school. So yeah, trying not to get kind of caught up on things, because no one likes to kind of hear it, but school at the time probably is what you've got to focus on. So finding a system to work around that, and yeah, being organized, because you'd be surprised how many hours are in the day. That you hear some crazy stories of like pro road riders when they were younger, like doing 5-6 hour days, like before and after school, just because they'd find the time. So yeah, if you're organized and you sort stuff out that needs to get sorted out, then you can make it work if you really want to get on your bike every day. But it's not even that necessary. If you ride your bike most weekends and on a Friday afternoon, or if you get out in once or twice in the week, then you're going to make great progress. And if you're working on the right stuff, like your skills and things, then yeah, no doubt you're going to improve as a bike rider.
Yeah, definitely. So you were on the Scottish XC mountain bike program, weren't you?
Yeah.
How many years were you on that for?
So I was on the kind of cluster and RSRs as I was coming up through under 14s and under 16s, and then onto junior, I went onto the kind of performance program. So that meant being more involved with the Institute of Sport, and then also Scottish Cycling, doing trips to bigger races. And yeah, it was an awesome platform for me to kind of grow as a bike rider, because yeah, most of those things that I was doing for the first time, like traveling to a race abroad, like in Spain. I'd never done that before, so that I was doing all of that because of Scottish Cycling. So yeah, we did trips to Spain, and training camps in the UK, obviously. And yeah, you learn lots, and there's older riders on the program as well, which is really the main thing. So people like Isla Short and Grant Ferguson, they've got this masses of knowledge really that you can tap into, and it's a great environment for that.
Yeah, definitely. So we often hear about just the successes of racing and not so much the bad races. So have you got any races that didn't go to plan? Obviously Merckx Plus, but is there any other ones?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's that consistency that's always hard, isn't it? You're going to have bad races, and they kind of make the good races better. I had a few last year in the Salzburg season that, yeah, just didn't go to plan. I wasn't riding right, like at Namur World Cup in Belgium. I just, yeah, made a mistake at the start, and then had crashes through the race. And the thing was, I had really good legs that day, which is why I still managed to have an okay result. But I just, yeah, didn't find any flow, and was just kind of, yeah, like running through mud. It was just, yeah, I just didn't have a good day. But I think I'd bigged that race up in my head quite a lot. So I think once I got to the start line, and I was already a bit beaten up. So that was definitely a lesson for the future for me, was, yeah, try to stay as relaxed as possible and not to overthink it, because what will happen whether you overthink it or if you try and not focus on it. So the ideal would be to just, yeah, not overthink it and control everything you can control, and then get on with doing the job, I guess.
Yeah, so you take a lot from these races, the ones that didn't go to plan.
Yeah, definitely.
So moving on to nutrition questions. So we know you're plant-based. So during the pre-season on big training blocks, how do you fuel yourself?
With just lots of food. When you spend like 4 or 5 hours on the bike, you're going to burn a lot of energy, and even when you're off the bike, your body's trying to recover. So you just need to kind of constantly give it what it needs, good healthy food, and lots of it. So carbs, fats, proteins, all of that, pasta, rice, avocados, nuts, beans, all of that stuff. I'm relying on plants, so you need quite a bit more volume of it, just because it's more likely to have less calories in it. But things like nut butters and nuts that are a bit higher in fat will kind of help you up that calories, so you're not in a calorie deficit, because if you are, you'll probably find your training quality goes down because you just can't recover. So is really important, especially when you're a junior or a U2A or like an under 16, like feeling all of your effort. Like if you're always stepping up the training a little bit more, the feeling has to come with that, because you don't want to dig yourself into a hole of effort and then not feeling it right. So yeah, that's a really important thing.
Yeah, for sure. So is there anything that you would not go without in your fridge, or do you have a favorite meal in the pre-season?
I make this kind of like creamy, like it's basically like macaroni and cheese, but made a bit healthier, and it just hits the spot. It's like savory and salty and lots of pasta, and it's very, very good. So I think that's made with like a cashew like sauce. So you like in like a blender, cashews and almond milk and like garlic powder, and it just makes this like basically a cheese sauce. And then you have that with whatever pasta and like mushrooms and beans and stuff. So that's the favorite.
Yeah, that sounds really good. And then a favorite pre-race meal.
So yeah, we have pancakes every race before. So 3 hours before, our soigneur makes us pancakes. We have that with some honey and or maple syrup if you want it, go full vegan. And like blueberries. So they're just really light on the stomach. They're not like heavy like oats. So they're just like easily digestible and yeah, give you those last bit of carbs that you need for the race. So yeah, they're the go-to.
And do you take like a watered down Red Bull or a full Red Bull before the race?
Yeah, so about 40 minutes out, I have that just mainly for the caffeine. If I wasn't having the Red Bull, I'd have like a caffeine gel, and that just kind of tops me up again before the start. And then I have another gel on the start line, so that's just keeping my like sugar levels nice and topped up, because with cyclocross, it's an hour of very high intensity, and yeah, you want to be totally topped up. Same with mountain biking and all that. You want to be topped up with your glycogen.
Yeah, nice. So there's just some questions about life now. Obviously, social media is a big part of our lives, whether we like it or not. How much time do you spend on your content, and would you say this is extremely important for aspiring professionals?
Yeah, I think it's becoming more important. Like obviously the pros of 10, 15 years ago wouldn't even have to think about it really. Whereas now everyone's got a kind of, a presence online, and brands do think more of it because that's where they're selling their products. So it is definitely a change. Yeah, you can't just get in the local newspaper. You can't just get on the news. You've got to kind of fight for your own corner. So it is important, but it's also important that it's all like you. It's not, you're not pushing something that's not yourself. So that's kind of what I find is quite high up my priority, is being as authentic as possible and showing what I am really like, because yeah, I don't want to create a false image. But yeah, show the fun things. Like we're all bike riders and stuff, and it's actually, well, I think it's the best sport, so I like to show it as that, whether that's through videos and photos and YouTube stuff. We get to see awesome places, and we can kind of show that to other people who like it too.
Yeah. So how long would you spend usually on, like, say, a long YouTube video?
Depends what the YouTube video is. If it's like really simple, then it would be like a few hours of editing, just because editing takes a long time. But if it's like a proper like race edit or something, that can be like a few days worth of editing here and there. Yeah, it's probably the most time consuming part of making a video is the editing, and YouTube is probably the most time consuming place you can put things out. Like Instagram and Facebook and all this, you can kind of just chuck things out and get people updated, whereas YouTube takes quite a bit more effort. But I think it's, in my opinion, it's worth it. That's why I do it. I really enjoy the process, and people really enjoy watching it. So I get a lot out of that.
Yeah. And I guess the race vlogs, when you're editing them, they could be a good way to reflect on the race.
Yeah, in good ways and bad ways. Like it's not fun editing a race where you've done rubbish. So, but as you say, you kind of reflect as you're editing through, and trying to tell the story of how the race went. And it's a bonus if it was a good race, because you get to kind of relive that a bit. Like editing the video from the European Champs was just cool, because I could just kind of show to people how much it meant, and kind of get that across.
Yeah. So you're part of a few youth clubs, weren't you?
So I've kind of come through a different. So I started with West Lothian Clarion, which are very local to me, and then I've ridden for a few different shop teams. Les the Bike Shop being one of them, and then I went kind of on my own setup for a year or two with my own sponsors, and then I managed to step up to UCI level with Trinity.
So in those youth clubs, outside of all the cycling skills, what else did you gain from them?
Just in West Lothian Clarion, it was that kind of feeling of being in a club and having club mates and turning up to training every week and learning new things. But then as I was on different clubs, it was older, more experienced riders that could kind of lend a hand or kind of give across their kind of expertise, because there's always someone higher up than you that you can learn from, and you've got to kind of use that. And it's super important, and having friendly people at the races for you, that's what really is great about clubs and teams, is that kind of community and having people on your side at these events. So it was super important.
Yeah. And then how did you find that year when you're kind of privateering? Was it much harder than being on Trinity?
Yeah, it's very different. Like everything, you've got to sort everything yourself, obviously, and you've got to when things break, you've got to sort that out. It's very different to being on a team like Trinity, but it was an important stepping stone really to push into that kind of international level of competition. I think without that, all the things I did in that year of riding for myself, they were all just very important to actually get that ride with Trinity. If I hadn't pushed out to those Belgian races, I wouldn't have been seen by British Cycling. And if I hadn't been seen by British Cycling, I wouldn't have gone to the World Champs. And if I hadn't gone to the World Champs, then Trinity probably wouldn't have signed me. So it's all those things I had to push out. And for me, the best way to do that was off my own back. So, and it's hopefully paying off long term.
Yeah, for sure. So during lockdown, we've seen lots and lots of people getting on their bikes. Obviously, this is a very good thing, but what do you think about this? And is there anything that Scottish Cycling can do to maximise on this, or capitalise? Sorry.
I think they're doing it, and obviously when the racing comes back, hopefully we can get that converted into more support for the racing. But even if you're not part of the racing, just getting involved into the events, because there's, as we know, there's a lot more to cycling than just bike racing, because it's the best sport in the world. I think that because of how many levels there are to it, you can use it as transport, you can use it as adventure and escapism, and to stay healthy as well. So there's so many different levels to it, and I think that's the whole point of Scottish Cycling, is to engage all of those things and provide to each of those groups. So I'd say, like, when racing comes back, then I think there'll be a lot of hunger and enthusiasm around that, and as well the development side of things, because there's a lot of kids and a lot of young riders who will hopefully have discovered the bike, and they can get converted into the riders of the future, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think the 2023 World Champs, that's going to be a great thing for Scotland and just cycling in general. Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, definitely. I've chatted to it about a few other people, and it's definitely something to look forward to. For me, it will come at quite an interesting time as I move into the elite category, and it's definitely a goal for me personally. But as seeing all these other young riders coming up, hopefully it's something they can aspire to even to go to watch or to get selected by British Cycling, because it will be a pretty big spectacle and something to hopefully there's a lasting legacy. And it's so specific to cycling that we have the Cycling World Games in Scotland. So it's very positive.
Yeah, and hopefully we can get some good Scottish podiums.
Yeah, I'd like to see. I'm interested to see where they take all the venues and all the disciplines and stuff, because as we've shown this season, we have quite a good chance in quite a few different disciplines with the downhillers, the XC riders, the road riders, hopefully, that are coming up. So we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. So do you have any favourite places to ride locally?
For me, road riding, the Bathgate Alps, it's all like short, punchy back roads. Yeah, they're not the prettiest roads, like they're quite rough and rugged, but they make good bike riders. So in the road, that's the best. And then for the gravel, I've done a lot of gravel this summer, and I've been kind of going over towards the Campsies and Carron Valley and all of that, and just exploring there. And I think it's been, yeah, I've just, the amount of new trails and new places I've ridden my bike this summer. I think I'll look back on 2020 as a year of, yeah, kind of expanding my own trails around my doorstep. And then mountain biking, B Craigs for me is just the local, and it will always be that. And it's very flat. It's so maybe you wouldn't say it's that kind of extreme, but it's technical in its own way. And I think it's made me quite like a technically good bike rider, because you have to work for the speed. So yeah, those are my kind of top picks for around me.
Yeah, definitely. I actually tried my hand at gravel over summer. I got myself a cross bike, and I thought it was going to be really boring, but I really enjoyed it. We went round Aberfoyle a few times.
Yeah, it's great. I like, you can cover a lot more distance. I think like the average speeds are just that little bit higher, and for me, I would always prefer to go off road than on road. So it worked well with my training that I could cover these distances, do my efforts, but it would be off road, and for me, that's always more fun.
Yeah. So obviously, I race downhill mountain bikes. Have you ever thought about trying your hand at that?
I don't know. I don't know if I have the raw need for speed that you guys do. I'm not as much of a speed demon, and maybe I'd need to hit the gym a bit more. But yeah, of course, I wouldn't mind. Maybe if my team got me fully kitted out with a nice downhill bike, then of course I'd give it a shot.
Yeah. Yeah, next year when the cross is back on, I think I'm definitely going to give that a go.
Yeah, why not? Good stuff.
So yeah, we sped through the questions there. That's all I'm done. So where would be the best place to follow you on social media?
On Instagram, Cameron Mason, Facebook, Cameron Mason. Just if you type in Cameron Mason, then hopefully you'll find me. That's the idea of doing your social media good.
Yeah, cool. So hopefully your shoulder heals up nice, and hopefully see you back racing soon.
Cheers.
Cheers.